Have y'all seen that new Drive to Survive show? It's not new. Have y'all seen that Drive to Survive show? I can't get enough of it. I think I can get into anything if it has a good enough docuseries. Most sports have a compelling narrative, you just need to meet the characters. And meet the characters, I have. And fall in love, I did. There's this one driver who's a string bean French machine, and I have a crush on him. He's like a Les Mis Slender Man, and I love both those things. I bought his hat, and I hope he'll take me to prom. But yeah, all that aside, once you take the time to learn the stories and motivations behind each race, it all starts to click in place. So after you've binged all 4 seasons, you've got to get the app to catch up on the current season. Then after you've caught up, you've got to get the most recent game and start racing on all those iconic tracks. Then after you realize that an old third-party PS3 controller just ain't gonna cut it, you've got to spend $200 on a new controller. Have y'all ever spent $200 on a video game controller? These guys have come a real long way. The thing's built like a pistol and it's got more features than my car. It's got 4 extra buttons on the back. I don't think that's ever gonna come up, but I sure as shit got them. Not sure if you need a $200 controller to play F1 2021, but it certainly helps. When I go off the road a little bit to the left, the controller vibrates, but just a little bit, and to the left. But that wasn't why I got it. I got it for the stick. When you're going down these straights and you need to make the absolute microest of micro adjustments, you can't compete with a Williams. You're gonna need a Mercedes. It adds this tactile feel to the game you're just not going to get with an older controller. F1 2021 is big fun. The races are all about maximizing efficiencies in the tiniest of margins. Learning a track and doing a bunch of flying laps in the time trials is almost meditative. Just repeating the lap and improving on your time by tenths of a second. It's all about that feel and that clean precision. But I gotta admit something. I'm a bit of a dirty boy. I'm here for the feel. I live for the feel. I hope in one of these good-for-nothing videos I've expressed that at least a little bit, maybe in this one? Or this one? But the precision aspect of it,
He said,
Yeah, like, it probably reflects what driving an F1 car is actually like, and I'm here for that. I like the realism. Gold star for that. But it bears repeating that I'm a dirty boy. I like pressing lots of buttons fast and hard, not so much precisely. I don't want to tilt my stick ever so slightly to the left and right. I want to smash that shit in all directions. Maybe even both control sticks. I want that feel, but I also want blood. I want chaos. Wheel of Katamari was Keita Takahashi's reluctant sequel to the mega hit Katamari Damacy, and was released in 2005. The first game is this masterclass in game design, translating the simple concept of rolling things up perfectly into a video game, and the sequel is that, but better. It looks better, it sounds better, it controls better. All the levels have these unique challenges. One is underwater, one has you rolling up fireflies, and one has you force-feeding a sumo wrestler. It's just the perfect sequel. It tightens up everything that made the first game so special, and adds more variety to the overall experience. A lot of praise has already been dished out towards these games on their aesthetic. It's no secret that the tunes rip ass, and the whimsical visuals ooze charisma, but what connects this with this? That, my friend, is the feel. F1 strives in its realism to get players as close as they can to driving an actual F1 car. And Katamari, as ridiculous as this sounds, also strives for realism. It gets the player as close as they can to actually rolling up things like a city with a ball. In a Game Developer Magazine interview, Keita Takahashi said, "I've always wanted to create something different that can only be done in a game. If you're going to play a game that shows realistic cars, wouldn't it be more fun to drive a real car? Of course I understand the fun aspects of these games. Driving a car you'll never be able to own, those are definitely fun experiences. Games these days are really complicated. There are lots of buttons, and there are lots of items to keep track of. I'm just tired of all these complications. To hold a controller in your hand and control the action displayed on the screen is a minor thing nowadays, but I still think it's a little miracle. There's no need to add a lot of extra stuff to make it more difficult. Although I said I would like to make a game which is easily understood by everyone, I do not mean simple is best. I don't think something easily understood is necessarily simple." Takahashi wanted to remove the clutter of interfaces and design to create a truer human experience with a more nuanced expression of feelings. That point where you can express complicated situations by one word. Driving an F1 car is a complicated situation, and it requires many, many words. It takes a lot of knowledge going in and a lot of practice in the game itself to fully get that feel. The simple concepts of acceleration, braking, and steering branch out into a million different microprocesses, all happening at once, that you need to be aware of. If you brake too hard, you're going to lock up. Don't oversteer, you'll spin out. Warmer tires give you more traction, so if you're on a fresh set, that's going to play a role on every turn. All of this is, of course, a part of the appeal. When you've got all these technical ducks in a row and don't have to think about it, you can reach that feel, and all that complication can even add to it, but it's a steep hill to climb to get to that point. Katamari also has a lot of complications to it, but it only has one word: roll. When you pick up Katamari for the first time, it can feel awkward to control. There are also some challenges in the game that are genuinely hard even for experienced players, but there aren't these barriers of complication stopping you from getting past the initial awkwardness. You just keep playing the game, you keep rolling, and you unconsciously begin to understand and live in the feel. It doesn't take a lot of time to get a full handle of the Katamari. Takahashi wanted his game to be accessible and simple, but being simple does not mean it doesn't have the depth of complication. It just means that the depth isn't put on the shoulders of the player. This expression of roll in Katamari is felt through its physicality. In school, Takahashi was a sculptor. There's a very hands-on, in-the-mud kind of design to this game. He's designed games with special controllers in mind, and the tactile feel of his games seem important to him. He thinks down to the detail of your hands literally touching the controller. He recognizes that as part of the experience and feel. It's strange that the quirkiness of Katamari didn't find a home on a Nintendo console until recently. They seem like a natural fit, but if you've played the Katamari games before, and then recently picked up the Switch port, Katamari Reroll, you probably felt what I felt, even just a little. The colors, the music, the charm, it was all there, but something was missing. A lot of the early work and prototyping for Katamari's development was done on the GameCube. This was due to time constraints and the GameCube's dev kit being more developer-friendly at the time. In Laura Hall's book on Katamari Damacy, which, by the way, I am stealing basically everything from this script, almost whole cloth from, give it a read. Takahashi was quoted, "Our engineer didn't have much expertise, and neither did I, and the schedule was tight. So for these reasons, we picked the Nintendo GameCube platform for prototyping. I wanted to use the PS2 controller, though. The biggest piece of the puzzle missing from the Switch port is the PS2 controller." The PS2 controller and Katamari are a match made in heaven. The sticks are perfect, and playing with any other controller throws the whole feel off. The sticks on the PS2 controller are parallel, have huge circular ranges of motion, and these huge bulbs of rubber at the end of them. The Switch has these dinky little sticks at an angle. Reroll is a beautiful game, but it loses a lot when played on the Switch controller. Even the more recent PlayStation controllers have this almost reserved design in their sticks. They seem smaller, their circumferences pale in comparison to their predecessors, and they have these little grooves your thumbs are supposed to kind of exist in. They're controllers for cowards. The PS2 is just this massive ball of rubber. You want to roll a ball? These are the sticks you want to do it with. It's impossible to know what a Katamari literally feels like, but I just know it has the same texture as a little PS2 nub. My new $200 controller has the precision needed for F1, and an old PS2 controller has the collision needed for Katamari. Revving up those two sticks to go ultra fast in Katamari is just a beautiful experience. The physicality isn't all literal, though. It happens in the game, too. The Katamari absorbs these objects and takes on all these different shapes you have to control. You've got your initial ball, but then you grab a street sign and your ball now rolls with this. You feel that. You've got to make those micro adjustments. You've got to take those cooler tires into consideration. Wait, that's not right. The wacky aesthetic and constant information acts almost like a smokescreen to keep your brain from thinking too hard about it. But there is a realism and a heavy lumpiness to this game. When you try to pick up something too big, you slam into it like a car crash. Pick up something medium-sized and you blow through it like a freight train. Pick up something small and you barely notice it. In the flower levels, it's almost jarring. The light little flowers impede you so little your brain overadjusts. The difficulty here is almost in how easy it is to blast through everything. The way the ball changes and interacts with objects in the world is like playing with clay, rolling it on a table and picking up little debris. It's the feel, it's the roll, baby! As the Katamari grows, it also expresses that tactile feel through its scale. It gets bigger and bigger and communicates its size and its movement. It becomes more lethargic in its movements. There's a metaphysical communication of size that happens through the objects themselves. In one instance, you're in a location, a house maybe, picking up all the objects littered on the floor. But at some point, you've grown so much the objects in the house cease to be objects. It isn't about cleaning up the house one object at a time. Eventually, the house becomes an object itself. You are picking up the house, it's been encapsulated. All the complicated smaller objects within the house are now encompassed into a singular object, house. At different scales, different things are given objecthood, which puts into perspective your scale. I love the Katamari aesthetic. I mean, just look at my profile picture. It's a cousin Sona? What do we call these? And while I think a lot of its success stems from this aesthetic, I think a lot of its goodness comes from its feel. It works on such a metaphysical level with how it views size, and also a physical level and how it captures that feel, that I think even stripped of its quirky aesthetic and 10 out of 10 music, you'd still be left with a real good game. The feel of rolling and just playing the game is such a joy in itself, you don't need all the other stuff. The fact that it has all the other stuff is why it's such an all-timer. It's blasting on all cylinders here.